the Gaspers from Comstock, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you all. Make sure you can hear me okay. So welcome to the Comstock presentation, kicking off the MicroCap conference. I want to talk to you about Comstock and two remarkable businesses that are commercializing. I want to kick off by saying that we took the word sustainability and we decided to interpret it literally. So you're going to hear now legitimately about an oil well that never stops producing. And you're also going to hear legitimately about a silver mine that never stops producing and never depletes its reserves. So if that sounds impossible, then you're going to like the presentation. And I really welcome challenging that fundamental tenet of what we're building. So the company is public. I'm in my 15th year with the company, and it started with the restructuring of an entire gold and silver mining district. We own 12 square miles of real estate, all mineralized with gold and silver on the historic Comstock LODE. The name used to be called Comstock Mining, but 5 years ago, we decided to invest in two additional businesses: renewable fuels, oil well that never stops producing; renewable metals, silver mine that never stops producing. We have about $110 million of assets on our balance sheet, but our balance sheet does not include any of the gold and silver resources that we've technically reported from third parties. The balance sheet does not include any of the fair values of our intellectual property, which you'll hear about. And it also doesn't include, because of our 10 plus years of exploration in the mining industry, $250 million net operating loss carry forwards. So we're about to make a lot of money, and we're about to shield that money from federal taxes. We have a very, very senior team. One of the things we hear often, I just heard it 5 minutes ago, is you got a lot of balls in the air. We don't. We have 3 dedicated businesses, and really one of them is just a fully entitled 12 square mile mineral district that's not operating. It's on fully permitted, essentially care and maintenance, and we cover the cost, which is very small, less than $2 million, with some leasing and other activities. So we have a free option on gold and silver, and I'm not going to talk about that very much except maybe at the end, but we have a fully dedicated renewable fuel team with a president who invented a process for extracting corn oil from the waste biomass in the corn ethanol industry. Created an 8% increase in the entire industry's revenue, billions of dollars, and it was only an 8% enhancement to the utilization of their biomass. What you're going to hear today is he turned his attention to wood and made an over 100% enhancement in the revenue profile. Also, Fortunato, who runs our metals business, has spent 40 plus years in hazardous waste and metal management, and is a PhD chemist. So we have fully dedicated teams operating each business. So it's fuels and it's metals and mining. We extract and convert underutilized resources, and it's used to support clean energy. For those who need to be convinced about what's happening in energy, it's exploding in terms of usage, and the number one aggravator of that high demand is these data centers, almost doubling what Goldman Sachs is predicting the annual growth in energy uses is. And we're part of the US being able to create energy dominance. How? Starting first with biofuels. So some of this will be hard to believe. I hope it's hard to believe, and I hope because it's hard to believe, you're going to come back and ask me and Billy a lot of questions. But the US alone burns 230 billion gallons of liquid fuel a year in a multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure. 16 billion of that is corn ethanol, because the government incented a mandate for people to produce low carbon fuels. Another 16 billion, the government's trying to incent and advance biofuels, but they're only doing a little over 4. Why? The bottleneck is feedstock. There's only so much used cooking oil or soybeans that they can grow to make renewable fuel. The bottleneck is feedstock. Our technology unblocks that bottleneck. The demand equation is being further exaggerated by every airline in the world wanting to have sustainable aviation fuel, now re-acronymed or re-verbalized as synthetic aviation fuel, SAF. Some people don't like the word sustainable. We take it literal. This market is exploding. Everyone and their mother, from LATAM to Delta to Portugal to New Zealand to Singapore Airlines, is trying to lock up as much sustainable aviation fuel as possible. The number is exploding into the billions. So what do? We crack the code on the bottleneck, okay? Wood can generally produce about 40 to 50 gallons of fuel per dry ton because we're using the cellulose to make things like ethanol. We cracked the code on the rest of the wood. We're now doing 140 gallons per dry ton of wood. The next competitor at best, somewhere between 50 and 60. By securing waste wood, which there is an abundance of, over 1 billion tons a year generated in the US alone, and purpose-grown crops, which I'm going to explain in a minute, we have an endless supply of carbon for feedstock to grow this perpetual oil field, and we leverage the existing infrastructure. Electrification is a nice concept. We think there'll be a certain percentage of Teslas on the road, and they're going to build a massive infrastructure that doesn't exist today to do that penetration. God bless them. We hope they're successful. I don't know how many people realize that Los Angeles County has more people in it than 39 of the 50 United States. So let's electrify those metropolitan areas. Upper state Nevada, Wyoming, not so much. So we believe in leveraging the existing oil and gas infrastructure to do what? Produce more oil and produce more gas. And because we cracked the code, we've debottlenecked the one thing that's holding us back from producing billions and billions of gallons of oil and gas. Our target is to do 8 billion by 2035. The richest source of carbon, as David Winsness discovered, was hidden in plain sight. Corn can produce about 50 gasoline gallon equivalents. You can produce ethanol, and it translates to about 15 gallon equivalents. Lignocellulosic biomass, which is the scientific name for woody biomass, if you're using half of it, it can produce 50 gallons as well. But we're using all of it. We cracked the code on the richest source of carbon, which is the lignin, pushing our yields up to 140 gasoline gallon equivalents, 2 times the next competitor. This is our hydroprocessing and demonstration pilot system in Madison, Wisconsin. We're gearing up to produce about 2 barrels a week, but we've already fully proven the concept at TRL 6, and we're now moving up to TRL 7. How are we creating this new standard? We've secured a biomass produced by a company called Hexas, which when compared to soybeans, which produces 2 barrels of oil per acre per year, or corn, which produces 10 barrels of oil per acre per year, xanograph, which is a woody biomass, which grows in marginal areas, which needs less water, which is perennial, only needs to be planted once, which doesn't use pesticides, which bores farmers while they watch it grow, can do 100 barrels per acre per year. Now, this is a multiplying effect. Our feedstock is 10x corn, 50x soybeans, and our yields is 2x the next competitor. They go together. And we create this incredible farm to fuel system. So we're building our own facility in Oklahoma. Why? Because Oklahoma is in a beautiful location with an infrastructure of oil and gas and pipelines and everything you'd ever want all around it. but maybe more importantly, because they're paying us $3 million to select them as our first site in a grant, and they've allocated $152 million in tax-free municipal bonds to support the financing of our first plant. So the other thing that's phenomenal about our solution when you're talking about carbon impact is that corn, which is great, some people say, is a 30% reduction when compared to petroleum in terms of carbon reduction. Our cellulosic ethanol, which is molecularly identical, right, to corn, has a 16 score. When you compare us to soybeans, which are better than corn, 45% reduction, very expensive. Corn is very expensive. Soybeans even more expensive. Waste wood? No, very cheap. So we have a low cost feedstock, a very, very low carbon impact score. Who cares, Corrado? Do we care about the climate anymore? Trump doesn't care about the climate. Nobody cares about the climate anymore. Yeah, we care about the climate, but we also care that we get paid $5.32 for a gallon of cellulosic ethanol as compared to $1.36 for corn ethanol. So when you have a lower carbon score, you get higher revenue. So abundance, unblock, debottleneck, low cost, cheapest feedstock on the planet, highest yield, highest revenue. That's the equation, and we've nailed it. So we take that ton of wood, we take the pulp from the cellulose, we make sugar, and we make ethanol like everybody else. But then we take all the rest of the wood, we make what we call bioleum. Literally, the biological natural equivalent to petroleum is where this thing is about to go into production with. And we can produce 140 gallons per ton, including primarily, majorly sustainable aviation fuel. We can do it all, from purpose-grown crops to forest residuals to fats, oils, and greases. We can make ethanol to sustainable aviation fuel, Bioleum, hydrodeoxygenated Bioleum oil, sustainable aviation fuel, renewable diesel. We integrate into all these other industries. We build our own and we integrate into other industries. What do you mean, Corrado? Well, pulp and paper guys take cellulose, make paper, and throw away the lignin or burn it. Sugarcane takes the sugar, makes their products, ethanol or otherwise, and throw away what they call bagasse. Guess what bagasse, guess what craft lignin is rich in? Carbon. Guess what we do with it? We make fuel. So we're not only building standalone Bioleum refineries, we are literally integrating into pulp and paper. We're integrating into sugarcane. But then if you can grow a crop that requires less maintenance, less cost, perpetual, perennial, that has a 10x yield, guess what the corn farmers want to do? They want to start switching their crops. If you have a corn ethanol facility, you're paying more for your feedstock, less for your revenue. You change your feedstock, lower cost, higher revenue. That would be enough to switch. But then we take the rest of that lignin and we triple your yields. It's an irrefusable offer. So as I mentioned, Oklahoma is ideally suited for the production. We are picking it. We're going there first. We're highly incented. We're about to announce our first site, and then we're going to get going. And in 2 years, we'd love to have our first fully integrated facility up and running. But it's more than that. We've signed 5 international licenses: Australia, Vietnam, Pakistan, in conversations with Africa, in conversations with Europe, in conversations with South America. With who? Majors, minors, intermediates, project developers. What do the economics look like? 6% of the CapEx as upfront engineering fees, 6% of royalties as perpetual revenue, and 20% equity stake in every project. Why are they giving you guys so much, Corrado? Because it makes a lot of money. So we've already announced an agreement with strategic partners in Wyoming, in Sweden, in Washington with Hexas Biomass. We have the exclusive rights to the esterification process from a Swedish leading lignocellulosic technology producer. We have the exclusive rights to Hexas Biomass using that exceptional yield for what? For fuels. We have the exclusive right to the National Renewable Energy Lab's advancements to shatter the blend wall with SAF. So we've built a portfolio of IP on top of our mountain of IP, which is the core, and integrated it all together. Is it impenetrable? I don't know. Vibranium's impenetrable, but it would be almost impossible to replicate in at least half a decade to a decade. But then we added to it a liquid to gas, a gas to liquids technology out of Tulsa that brought our yields from 125 to 140. We signed a deal with incentives with Oklahoma. We signed a deal and Marathon Petroleum invested directly into our subsidiary. And now we're working on a up to $50 million Series A at a ridiculously higher valuation. How high, Corrado? Well, Marathon capped it at 700 million. Isn't your market cap only 55 billion? Correct. One of our subsidiaries is valued by someone else at 700 million and our market cap is only 55 million. Then we signed agreements in Australia, in Vietnam, in Pakistan. We have an agreement with National Renewable Energy Lab, exclusive license to their technology in conjunction with MIT. We're working with both NREL and MIT for the next generation of fuels. None of that technology is incorporated in our first facility. We have things going on with Wyoming that we're not telling anybody about. You put it all together and we're already a global company and nobody knows about it. So we're here to talk about. NREL has gone on record saying this is the leading biofuel technology with the highest yields, with the most abundant feedstock. RenFuel has basically said, we've been 17 years developing this tech. We're joining Comstock. We're riding that horse. So this will result with reasonable and rational amount of acres, with reasonable and rational amount of refineries, in us meeting half of that 16 billion mandate in the United States alone. 8 billion gallons by 2035. We will be one of the leading fuel producers, certainly the leading renewable fuel producer, and we're partnering with everyone that's critical, including Marathon Petroleum, including Hexas Biomass, all under our thing. Now, quickly, we also have silver mines that never stop producing. What I love about silver, well, I was raised on the Comstock. So Nevada's the silver state because of the Comstock LODE. Comstock LODE was the largest producing silver mine in the country by far. But in the last 3 years, supply and demand for silver has shifted. We went from silver perpetually having more supply than demand to 3 years ago, it's switching. Now there's 200 million more ounces a year in silver being used than being mined. Why? Primarily solar panels. They're taking over a major segment of the energy process. And now the demand just is continuing to project and grow way beyond where it is today. So we created a process to take the solar panel. We get paid upfront to take the solar panel. We process it at a fraction of the cost. Then we get paid again to sell all the materials. We've proven the process. We've been operating for a year. The market's ridiculous. 100,000 tons of waste came out of the market last year. 1 million tons is going to come out of the market in 2030. 10 million is coming out in 2050. These are US numbers only. One of our facilities will do 100,000 tons, which is 10% of the market 4 years from now. 100,000 tons is 3.3 million panels. How the hell can you do 3.3 million panels in a year, Corrado? One panel every 7 seconds. 100% reuse of the material. And our claim to fame, which we've fully proven, is that we can eliminate the laminates, the plastics, and the glues, the nasty crap that buyers of aluminum, buyers of glass, or buyers of silver don't want. We 100% eliminate the contaminants cleanly, 100%. And then we sell all the silver. We sell all the aluminum. We sell all the glass. How much goes to a landfill? Not 1 ounce. We do not have a competitor that can do a panel every 7 seconds. We do not have a competitor that can scale. We do not have a competitor that can claim zero landfill solution. We're about to be certified by a third party as 100% zero landfill solution. We do not have a competitor that can do what we can do. We just announced last week that RWE, one of the largest renewable energy companies in the world, the third largest in the United States, selected us as their strategic end-of-life solution partner. 4 million pounds shipped to our facility in the first quarter. That'll represent a 5 or 6x multiple on our revenue. We're going like this already. What does the economics look like? They freaking pay us $500 a ton just to take the panel. Costs us $150 a ton to process out the material. That's a lot of profit, 75, 80%. But then we resell all the materials for another $200 a ton. That number gets me over 80%. 80% cash margin, not gross margin, cash margin. What's the timing of the cash? Most of it we get paid up front. What's your working capital? Negative. Holy shit. What am I missing? How big is the CapEx, man? Must be massive. Yep, $12 million for one facility generates $50 to $60 million a year. What if you had 3 facilities? $150 to $180 million a year. How much market share would that be? 30% of 1 million tons. If we're at 30%, I'm going to be pissed, right? We're going to corner this market and we're going to go fast and furious. It's up and running. That's our state senator. When I told her that California made it illegal to put solar panels into landfills, she's like, so what are they doing with them? They're dumping them into Nevada. What? We're taking them, we're reprocessing them. Our first facility is right on the California border, just near Reno. Second facility, just north or south of Vegas. Why? Arteries coming in from California, arteries coming in from California, arteries coming in from Arizona. Where are all the oldest panels in the United States? California, Arizona, California, Nevada. What's next? Texas. What's next? Florida, North Carolina. So we're not going to stop at 3 facilities. We're going to keep going, right? So last thing I'll say is that people hate gold miners. So 5 years ago, I said, I don't want to be a gold miner anymore. We have no love. We have no appreciation. What do we have? A shitload of silver in the ground. What do we have? Shitload of gold in the ground. Fully permitted. Why don't you mine it? We're going to, or we're going to sell it, or I'll let you know. But there's no way in hell I'm allocating cash to mining until solar panels are printing money and fuels are fully up and operating. But we have a lot of gold and silver. We got a lot of grades. We got a lot of real estate, and we got a great company. So do we have time for questions or no? That's not a thing. Any question? We got 2 minutes. Quickly. Yeah. So great question, right? The industry, right, has incentives for production. You saw how we get $5 a gallon for ethanol versus $2 a gallon for corn, right? We're at about $4, right? And we have programs that get us down to $2.50. And then the secret programs with like Wyoming and NREL are designed to get us to cost parity. So we make a lot of money today with average prices between $6 and $9 a gallon if you push it to the sustainable aviation fuel, right? But we ultimately want to be standalone competitive with those costs. We don't know anybody in our industry that's talking about anything associated with cost parity with fossil fuels, but we're obsessed with it. All right, that's it. I'm here for 2 days. My associate Billy McCarthy in the back's here for 2 days. We'd love for you to come up and challenge us about, sounds too good to be true. How is this really happening? What are the risk factors? How are you going to get to the finish line? Thank you, everyone.